Today on Smackey's Garage, we're going to be getting the headlights, the turn signals, the brake lights, all functioning correctly off of the switches in the car. This is a Factory 5 GTM Supercar. They built under 1,000 of them, and they're not building them anymore, to my knowledge. It runs a Porsche transaxle on the back, so it runs a G50, and then it runs a Corvette or an LS1 engine. So the way that we have this car built is the LS1 engine's in it, the Porsche transaxle's in it, everything is together, and we put the body on it a few weeks ago. The taillights are in place, but they're not actually functional, so I have to wire those up. And then a lot of the work is actually under the dash, where I need to spend some time to rewire and make all the switches work. So make sure the turn signal's working, I need to make sure that the brake lights are working, and then the headlights. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get all those working in this video. You can see I gotta wire up the headlights. So we do have one headlight bucket in place right now. I do have to add some brackets to that, but wiring this there, I'm gonna run it over to here and that side. But as you know, if you've been following the video, I only actually have one headlight bucket because they stopped manufacturing them and they never gave the right one with this kit. So I've always had two driver's sides. Now, a lot of the wiring that I'm gonna have to do is down here to get everything functional and routed correctly. So the brake switch should be attached to the Willwood brake setup on the car, and we're gonna go ahead and check that. Now back here, I installed a terminal block, so we need to connect the taillights to that terminal block. All the wiring's still there, but you can see it's just run anywhere. That needs to all be cleaned up and then attached there on both sides. So let's go ahead, let's figure out how we're gonna get these brake lights to work. All right, so I set up a voltmeter in here so I can take a look at the brake switch. Now, on the Willwood brake setup here, there is brake pedals back there. I've attached the alligator clips to this on the ohm setting to be able to see if it's functioning and if it's making contact. So we haven't checked the switch to see if it's normally closed or normally open, but what I'm really hoping is when we look at the switch, when we push the pedal down, then the brake pedal closes when the switch itself opens, if that makes any sense. So let's go ahead, let's check that. Okay, now the voltmeter's in place. Change it to ohms, make it so that it beeps so you can hear it. Now I need to press that brake pedal down there to see if it does beep. Now let's hope it works. All right, so when I push it, it's making contact. The contacts are closing, which is good. That is what I'm looking for. Now when I let go, it shuts the switch off and the brake light should turn off. Now this might be one of those easy projects on the car where I can just wire it up and everything works. Now I'm moving back here to get some of these things wired up so I can make sure that I'm using the right wires up there. Now I had to take out one of the taillights or the blinker because you'll notice this has a missing wire. It's gonna take a little bit longer than I expected. I need to rewire everything because that terminal block, you can't reach it from both sides. The car is a little bit wider than I expected, so I'm gonna get that done. All right, so you can see the terminal block is installed and everything, I actually ended up shifting it over to the left a little bit. And with that, I ended up redoing all the wiring so that it's the right length. Now all these wires need to be mounted to the body into here, and then I'm gonna have them run from here to here. And then if I ever need to take the body off, all I need to do is unscrew this terminal block and everything should come with it. So each one of the lights is now installed and ready. All right, so I ended up rewiring all this. Let's give a few things a check. So parking lights, left turn signal, right turn signal, and then the brakes, which are not wired up, which I have to finish right now, should be this wire. All right, looks like everything is working as it should. Now I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna finish up with the brake switch here. So all I need to do is take this wire here, solder it to the brake switch in the back, and then run a ground from that brake switch to this ground block that I put here. I put this ground block here kind of temporarily just so I have a place where I can put all my grounds, and then I'll move it depending on how everything looks when the rest of the interior is in the car. All right, so we're all wired up in here. You can see the brake pedal down there, and then you can see there's a tan with orange and then a white wire that I've connected. White wire is going to the ground up here. I soldered that to black, and then there's a tan with orange, which is going directly to this master cell back here, which essentially controls all the inputs and outputs. So still a lot of wiring to do in here to get everything to look good and to kind of be used, but making progress. Now before we go ahead and get this together and test it out, let's get the headlights wired up. So now we need to make some sense of where these wires need to go and how they're going to make it to the right spots in the hood for the headlights and turn signals. Now in the last video, one of the things I covered in the comments was around the headlights. So I realized the headlight buckets are installed in the wrong location now, with the other part that's still missing over there, so the passenger side headlight bucket. It probably makes most sense to get another hood from a Gen 2 GTM if possible. So we're trying to figure out what the actual cost of that would be, so we can look at the cost of that versus the cost of trying to make this work. But at least for the wiring, we can get it all ironed out so that it can be connected to a new hood or to a headlight when we get it. All right, so everything's wired up. You can see I got the terminal block up front there. That goes to the looming, which is going all the way around the front. It's connected around the chassis over to here. This, I use some of the tape wrap. I wrapped up the wires so that it's a single loom or single setup coming down. And I left some extra wiring down there because I'm gonna put the terminal block over there in the corner when I get that other headlight, or figure out what we're gonna do with that other headlight. So that way I can kind of snip it down there. When that's snipped, I can pull some of this through, put the terminal block there, and connect to the whatever light that ends up being. So let's go ahead, let's wait for the evening, then we're gonna take it outside, see how the lights work, check everything out. So we have our tail lights working, we have our brake lights working. Check the turn signals quickly. So left side. Go to the right side. Now let's check the headlights. So headlights should be forward and high beams are all the way up. So it looks like everything is working, including the brake lights. So I'm happy with the progress we made today. We got the tail lights working, brake lights working. We have our hazards working, so both blinkers are functional. And we also have the headlights working, so both the high beam and the low beam. Everything went pretty smooth with the wiring. Everything's functional by a multifunction switch up on the column now, so everything's wired up exactly like it should. Now we just need to make sure we get the wiring right, how we route it, kind of well, when the interior goes together. Who knows if we're gonna have to make wires longer, or if we're just be able to work with what we have. So thanks for tuning in to Smackey's Garage this week. I'll see you next time.